Okay, hang on. Oh, you know what? I wonder if, yeah. Okay, am I back yet? I can't tell if I'm back or not. Oh, is it back? Okay. Alexander says it's back. Um, oh, okay. It looks like it reset the chat window when I refreshed, or at least, or maybe just the reconnect did. Um, so I'm just typing in here in Discord in case I'm not back and somebody can tell me. But I feel like I am. It looks this thing is saying I am. So if that's the case, I do. I wonder if it got weird um, when I switched to Tor. That may have changed my network, and I probably did, and so that may have forced like the stream may have kicked the stream offline. Um, anyway, I don't know where it cut me off, but I was looking at a question from Hannah about the set of satire, and I can't get that question back anymore. But I believe the question was um, like how to define the corpus, and in the context of looking at satire, it's a really interesting question. Like you've set up a really interesting question to try to explore with programming, and um, I'm not really sure the cloud. Oh, this is it. Oh, did you just looks like you just reposted the same question. Thank you. Um, I do kind of wonder. Like I'm partly thinking of what kinds of things a computer can do, and then also thinking of like how to define the problem that you're trying to solve. And I think, um, and Alexander, that's a good question too. Alexander, like I think I could definitely do that over a live stream, and then you could join if you wanted to, and if not, you don't have to. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so for Hannah, I wonder if like if you can get an author or if you can get lots of works by an author and some of them are satire, some of them are not. Like that would give you like a sorting context. So you might be able to um, like I don't know how many you would need in order to actually find something, but maybe start with what you have, right? If it's 5 to 10, and see if you can find a way to programmatically detect those that are satire. I mean, programmatically, it's really more of a statistical problem than a programming problem because just the things that those articles are about, if they're different topics, would make it hard to detect style. I mean, what you're really after is style, and I don't know. That's going to be really interesting. But I would say so. Try to find, but don't worry so much about time period yet. I think find if you can find a single author, and let's say you have 10 articles by them that are straightforward, not satire, and then two that are, or something like that, then that might be like try to build a corpus around that kind of thing. So you have maybe different authors, but for each you have representative text from either satire or not. And then you're gonna be trying to detect genre or style, I guess. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that helps, but you said okay, so hopefully that does. But anyway, so that I mean, let me go to the Google Doc here because some people are asking about this. So, like, if you go back to the assignment pages, I don't really have a lot here. And my plan had been to develop this assignment with you all in class. Probably would have ended up being a Google Doc or something like this anyway. But now that we're doing this all remotely, we'll just do it kind of do it like this, definitely. So the description I have so far is totally vague, right? It is open ended. Use computers to discover and or share something interesting or important about a literary work or works. and all your projects fit into that general description. But what I'm interested in I'm interested in your input on something maybe a bit more specific, or that gives us a sense of how to decide if these are good or not, how to decide if these work, to set some parameters around it, basically. So that's what this Google Doc is for. And since this project now is the entire class in the sense of your grade and what we take from it, I think it makes sense to go to the outcomes and objectives. For the course, these are from the syllabus, and so these up here are the generic outcomes and tasks that the department gives us for a senior seminar in English, and those are all being accomplished, I think, in these. So the ones that I came up with here are more specific, but if you do these things, you are also doing these things, if that makes sense. So I wanted to start with these in this document, and if I'm editing, yeah. Okay, so, and I'll just put these in here for informational purposes, and then add a few more sections, and see what you think. Like a lag on my typing. So when I usually write an assignment, I don't always keep this structure, but I usually start with something else. Yeah, I know, right? The typing. Um, it's so Rhiannon, I'll put it in Discord. I sent it through an announcement earlier, but here's the doc link. Um, I usually like to think of like an overview, a sort of general, like what is the big thing we're doing, and as a kind of intro statement for a assignment. And I think wherever it is, this is a decent overview. The clock is ticking. Can you hear my clock ticking too? Okay, so I like to do like an overview, kind of what's the big deal, rationale to explain it in terms of how it connects to the learning outcomes, and then so those are provided here, and then a logistics section just to kind of explain, okay, what am I actually doing? So that's sometimes helpful at the end, or I usually write it at the end. I don't know if it's the best place for it. So what are your thoughts? Yeah, I was thinking about getting a condenser mic, but I haven't yet. Good question, Shannon. I I guess anything's possible. It's hard to predict the future at this point. The question is whether the Kemp Symposium might be recapitulated in the fall. Um, I don't know. um, I mean, so much depends on how the summer goes, and yeah, as Mothman is pointing out, a lot of you are going to be graduating, so it's kind of it won't be here either way. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's certainly possible, but my hunch is probably not. I think and this is off the top of my head, me speculating with no inside information or any other conversations about this. But my thought is if we depending on how things go with the you know virus situation, um, like assuming it goes well, things clear up over the summer and we come back for the fall. This spring semester has been so thoroughly disrupted that I think we will be spending a lot of time in the fall, if it's a normal fall semester. I think we'll be spending a lot of time kind of um, picking up the pieces, so to speak, or putting things back together. And I think we will probably try to take on not try to take on as many new things as possible. Like redoing the Kim Symposium might be a good idea just for community building, but it's also would be a new thing, and so it would be kind of we might need to be spending our energies elsewhere as far as kind of getting things back on track. That's kind of my hunch, but yeah. What soundtrack? Can you hear the piano? Is that what you're talking about? I think that's one of my daughter's piano lessons. Yeah, and I think a Zoom presentation or pre-recorded, that would be a pretty reasonable accommodation, like a pretty reasonable plan B. I don't want it to be a burden though, and not everyone has access to Zoom or streaming internet. There's 12 viewers right now, so that's most of, if that's 12 of the people in the class, that is most of you. But yeah, that's not everybody, so that's something that I want to make sure we're not leaving anyone out. Anyway, so in terms of logistics, like I'm not going to be able to sort of type and talk, so feel free to add. I see many of you editing right now, so feel free to add some thoughts. But I think logistically, the original plan was to use a Google Notebook, right, like a Google Colab Notebook, and you put your content there, you put your analysis in there, and your code to generate whatever you're doing. Whether I don't know. I mean, some of your projects, the way you described them, don't necessarily need that. I think some of them might just benefit from like a more traditional type of analysis essay with graphics, because if you're doing the 129 viewers, I hope not. What would that mean? Who would they be? I have views. I have 157. Yeah, I think that's. It shows me I have 157 views total, but 12 viewers. Yeah, so it should. I hope it's just just the class. I don't know. It'd be kind of exciting. Anyway, so in terms of logistics, I think it needs to be something that works for everybody, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be a collab notebook. Because I think even if your ideas are good, sometimes just kind of getting into that environment can be an obstacle, and I don't want to present obstacles if possible. And yeah, it could just be from people reloading too. So I'm not sure what the right term is to express that, but I think it is an analysis. I mean, whatever you produce, it's an essay, generically speaking. Like the correct genre term for what you will be producing is an essay. Um, just the question is whether it's a collab kind of thing or not. So let's add another section that might be a bit easier to kind of give you all something to work with. There we go. Let's add a rubric. And I like a 4-point rubric because that, I mean, it usually helps kind of break things down a bit. So let's see. I mean, we're used to traditional letter grades too, A, B, C, D, but I think 4 is a more natural way to divide an evaluation. I think I found it that way. So let me give you kind of a template and then ask you to add some things. Let's do, that's too small. Yeah, no, okay. Let's just do it simply, in a simple way. Yeah, it's always these middle ones that are harder to figure out when you name them. But I think exceeding expectations would be something that goes above and beyond. Meeting expectations, it does fine, right? It doesn't necessarily blow anyone away, but it does what it needs to. There's something else though that's like, I'm trying to not make it just expectations, but I'm trying to think of a good term for like a level, like a lower level, something that's developing, you know, I'd say needs work maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's not like you're going to be doing more work after this semester, but um, yeah, maybe something like that. And then unsatisfactory would just be a generic kind of thing. Okay, so let me turn these into headings. It's weird how the document editing seems to lag as I'm writing it. I guess it's because it's broadcasting the screen. Okay, let me just give you all some room to add some thoughts here, and then I saw a question pop up, so let me see what I think. Okay. So if you, so just, I mean, you can go off the top of your head even, and because this is editable, you can change things later. But what to you would be a work that meets expectations based on your idea of things so far? So, and in terms of expectations, look at the outcomes. Like, so those the outcomes are the expectations for the class. Um, the, the, uh, and everything else in the class, all the readings and activities have been built up to completing those, and then the project is the thing that attempts to contain everything and demonstrate all of that. So like you've been developing the ability to understand appropriate computational methods, and then you demonstrate that ability by making a good choice in your final project. So some language along those lines is what we need in here. Um, and Alexandra, definitely you can be creative. I mean, that's something that is when you look at the deformance piece, especially by Mark Sample, he's kind of saying like he's really talking about creative projects. Like you can do all kinds of things, certainly in terms of formatting. But one issue that you'll run into is that the Collab Notebook has very little options in the way of creative formatting. And on the one hand, that's kind of nice. It sort of forces you into a consistent presentation of your document, but it also just means you don't have very much flexibility. Like you can't do colored, like different colored text, for example. If you want to look at some really cool presentations of work, that would be certainly interesting things to aspire to. I've mentioned this site a couple of times, but Pudding.cool, they do essays about visual culture or visual essays about culture. And they call these visual essays. And oh yeah, there you go. So there's Shannon just linked to one of these. Great examples of using imagery and graphs. A lot of these are interactive, and I'm not saying you have to aspire to something as amazing as some of these graphics, but it's an example of how you can create an essay that isn't just a bunch of words. And so you could find something along these lines. This is a really interesting, just a visual. Like this is I always am interested in things that can be explaining things visually that aren't just like pie charts, pie graphs, and these are interactive, so you can, and I think interactive charts make them easier to understand what they're presenting if you can play with it a little bit. A lot of great stuff in here. And so these are things that in many cases don't actually have really that much programming behind the argument or the analysis. The interesting or the clever part of what they're doing here has to do with the presentation. So if you want to lean more like a Pudding Cool web article like that, then that's totally fine. In other words, like if you are doing something that on the analysis side is a bit more straightforward, but you do a really interesting visual presentation of it, I think that would also be meeting the goals for this. Yeah, you could totally do a smaller essay with an infographic. Yeah, that's what Rhiannon's asking. It's think about what you have, like, and think about how you what you say about it. I still think some words are good. And I think if you're, I guess the follow up would be what you mean by an infographic. I think, for example, the infographics that you can create in Canva.com are pretty nice, but I would probably expect more because those don't have a lot of room for you to exposit or explain what you're doing. And you can put the stuff in there, and that's good. But maybe if you did one of those, like an infographic, then you can have a preamble. Um, yeah, yeah. So yeah, Gephi's cool. I've not used Gephi that much, but yeah, if you want to do something like that, especially if you're doing a network analysis, that's something that you can definitely do as a way to understand a book. That's something that Franco Moretti was doing. And it can be like a graph of place names. Another tool just to kind of get a sense of that sort of thing. Gephi gives you sort of a nice way to work with it, but just kind of a thing that you can do once you have a corpus just to find out if that's interesting is you can go to voyanttools.org and you can try your corpus in this. This is something you can do once you make your corpus the way that we've been talking about it. The only thing you probably want to do is not include the spreadsheet, so just the text files. But we've looked at this before, I think, but sometimes it doesn't work. So I don't know. Let's try it. Let's do it with Shakespeare. But it can do. There are some various Gephi type things in it, and you can find them. This interface is kind of weird until you understand what it's doing. This little, it's actually the Windows icon, but yet you can click on that and then pull up different visualizations. I'm trying to see one that actually looks links, I think. One of them. Yeah, so this is a simple graph. I think it's showing words connected to each other based on frequency of co-location. So king and shall show up a lot. And I don't know what the color means here. Usually, though, you can click on the question mark and it explains what that is. So, yeah, these are things that are kind of nice. And you know, the Voyant Tools thing is kind of clunky, and but you can also embed these as well. So if you click on the export a URL, it'll export that little chunk right there. Sometimes those don't last. Like you embed it and then a week later it doesn't work anymore. You can also export it as a graphic. This is a new thing I've never seen before. A spiral notebook. What does that mean? What is spiral? Huh. Pretty sure this is a new thing. Huh. This could really, this could be useful. Because this is exactly what you all are working on with Collab Notebooks, right? So according to this is a dynamic document that combines text, code, and interactive tools, which is exactly what you're trying to do in the context of literate programming, which is what you're doing, but with literature. I have not seen this before. I guess I have some questions, but okay. Huh. It looks like it has a lot of the same features, or the kinds of things you would expect in, yeah, you can edit, you can make text cells. It's a little bit streamlined, but I don't know. I will definitely need to play with this. Especially the main thing is like, yeah, the storage. I would trust GitHub more than Voyant as far as storing these because they've had issues with that. But this looks pretty interesting. I will explore this some more. If it might be it might be better than working in Colab. For example, it probably has a lot of the code sort of pre-built. So like you have to write your code to make it work with your corpus, but it might already have things like frequency analysis and n-gram analysis kind of built into it just as a function that you can call without having to program your own function or import it or something like that. So I will definitely explore this. This looks really potentially quite valuable. So check this out. Oh yeah, and thanks Alex for sharing your project. That was a pretty cool project. I remember that. So yeah, that's a good one. The other one that I've used that's can create similar visualizations, Kumu, but I think Gephi is probably better for kind of single graphs like that. Hey, what's up? What are you doing? Nothing. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna explore this spiral notebook idea. It seems like it could be potentially really, I mean, I don't want to say game changing, but it could be a really useful tool. But let's go back here to the rubric briefly before I wrap up. Thinking about projects that meet expectations, need work, or that are unsatisfactory. I mean, I can just sort of talk through it here, but I do want to get this encoded in text. So maybe take a look at this later, especially if you're watching this later. But take a look at this later. I'll add some things, but I really want to get your thoughts in here. I don't want you to think of this as something I'm creating, right? It's something that we are working on together. You've got the outcomes that I gave you as a starting point, and we've been working on it with lots of things so far. So you should have things that you should have a pretty good sense of what it would mean to exceed expectations, or what it would mean to choose an appropriate computational method. So hopefully you do, and if so, then maybe we can talk about start spelling out criteria that would indicate that you made a good choice or not. Um, Okay, yeah, and I think I'm finding the document editing is lagging as I'm typing it, so it's kind of annoying for me to type on that. So I will probably do more of that a little bit later too. Okay, so I do want to wrap up. It's been about 40 minutes or more, so I want to wrap up. Let's plan on I'll do another live stream on Friday. This seems to be going pretty well, but I do want to talk with you all like individually and also hear from you more in more rich ways than just the text channel. So, you know, whether that's a voice chat or a Zoom or something, maybe we could do that Friday as well, maybe after the 2 o'clock live stream. Um, so that, I mean, maybe people don't want to go to two things, but I don't know. I think it's important to connect as many ways as possible at this point because we are in this moment of isolation. Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here in a minute. So if you have any more questions, let me know. Go ahead and throw them out here. But your main work you should be doing, if you haven't already done it, is corpus gathering. Like that's your main thing. Then once you have that corpus, you can start playing with it in Voyant or this other thing called Spiral, um, or whatever else. And on Friday, I will ask you again how your corpus is going, and if you've run into any problems, or if you have anything you can show yet, like if you have something to share. So you all declined, or I put the question out about doing a voice chat in Discord. So I guess if you don't want to do that, I won't make you. But I would like to kind of see some things. So maybe you could share it in, like, if you have your folder, your zip already, you could share it in um, Discord, and I could see how it looks, and other people could respond. Okay. So anything else to go over before we wrap it up? I mean, mainly work on your corpus, check out the readings, see if it makes sense. Um, well, I am probably going to be. That's an excellent question. So Rhiannon just asked how many works should be in a corpus. So I mean, like my answer for almost everything is it depends. If it depends on the kind of question you're asking. So in your case, you're trying to kind of replicate the Jody Archer, Matthew Jockers question, and for them, I mean, you might be shifting it a little bit from that, but in their work, in that kind of work, the larger their sample size, like the more works they can put through the same analysis, the more confident their findings will be. So in other words, the more the better. Uh, that's because they're asking a kind of yes/no sort of question, and so they want to be as confidently yes or as confidently no as possible. And the higher you're in, like your in equals your in value, which is the number of samples, the more statistically strong your yes or no is, whatever level it is. So that's I mean, within reason. Like they were looking at, I think they had 5,000 something works in their corpus. You're not, I mean, you don't have to get 5,000 works. And I think it's even a smaller sample because they've got their sample already. If you could find a smaller sample and attempt to replicate it, that would still be a way of responding to their work. You could either prove or call into question their work with a smaller set if you tried to replicate their methods. So that's something I think 50 would be great. Like if you could get 50, I think that would be a pretty good chunk to work with, because you'd probably have enough variety within that you'd be looking at different genres. It is something that would be beyond the scope of a single person, certainly to do this semester. So yeah, I think 50. That's a good target. I support that. But I mean, but then that said, I mean, well, I'll put it this way too. Like the more the better, but the benefit sort of it's a logarithmic curve, so it's going to taper off. Like if you had 100, that would be better than 50, but not necessarily twice as good. And then like if you had 300, that would be better than 50, but not necessarily 6 times as good. So it's something that the more the better, but draw the line somewhere. Um, and Allison, this is the assignment description. So I'm especially interested in the rubric, but you're trying to describe this is the kind of thing I would normally give you and say, here's what you need to do. But I'm asking you all to contribute to this because, um, I mean, we're developing these ideas. We're trying to respond to other people's ideas. And so it's something that I think is, um, you know, it so much depends. And so that's why I want to give you all a chance to put something in here that your project could fit into. So under the rubric, this is going to be a general rubric that fits everyone's projects, but you should make sure that the features that are important for your projects are on here somewhere. If that makes sense. Maybe it'll make more sense once we add more content. We'll talk about this again on Friday, I think. And Alexandra wants to know if the metadata is the metadata subjective to each project. The metadata that you create as the spreadsheet, that is going to be your metadata for your project. You can build on someone else's, but you need to have your own. I mean, and in fact, you can find published metadata for a lot of things, but if you're making your own, I think a spreadsheet's the easiest way to do it. And a lot of times you won't find metadata published just as a spreadsheet that you can use, but you can make it that way. It'll usually be published as like a database or a XML document, but the spreadsheet would be easier for you to do. But yeah, each of your metadata should be good. Like it should be something that tells you the things you want to know about your documents that you're including in your corpus. My tea is cold, so I need to wrap it up. Go refresh this. Okay, so I think I answered Rhiannon and Alexandra's questions. But if you have any follow-ups, let me know. I attempted to answer the question. Okay, so one thing I will be doing, just FYI, I am kind of interested in this idea of streaming, and it's kind of fun. So I know most people do gaming things with their stream, so I'm going to probably do some of that kind of stuff. If you've subscribed to me, it'll pop up that I'm live, but it may not be about a class. But I think what I'll do is I can change the stream description, so it may show that I'm going live, but playing something, and so you're welcome to watch if you feel like it, but it has no real importance probably. One thing I'm going to try to do is the Atari game Adventure 1979, programmed by Warren Robinett, is the first video game that had an Easter egg in it that people found. And I know how to do it. I know how to unlock the Easter egg, so I might just stream a session of me doing that. How long it takes depends on a couple of things that are just random. So I think the fastest I ever did it was like 8 minutes. I'm not going to try to speed run, although certainly people do. But I'll try and do my best with it. And that might be interesting. I do not have a Switch. I would like one, but I do not have one. We have a Wii U, I think. I mean, I know we do, but I don't know. I don't think we've set it to be online. Yeah, yeah, maybe I'll get one later, but not for now. Basically, I don't have a lot of gaming options at home. I have a PS4, but it doesn't work very well. It shuts off randomly. It's very frustrating. I have a computer, a PC. It's in pieces. I'm gesturing to where it is. It's in pieces because it got killed in an electrical surge like a year and a half ago, and then about 6 months ago, I thought I would see if I could fix it, and I replaced the power supply, but it never quite worked. I don't remember how far along I got last time, but yesterday I plugged it in and it turned on, and like the hard drive booted up, and it was corrupted, but I was able to get it running enough to I think, or I thought anyway, correct the corruption, and then but it doesn't work today. So it doesn't even, I cannot get any signal to the monitor from it at all, like not even a BIOS or a post message. So I have to do a lot more debugging. I think I'm gonna take it apart again and pull all the components out that I can, and then just sort of add components one at a time until it fails again, and then see what failure that is, and decide if it's worth it to upgrade or not. Might be if I can replace one part cheaply, then that might be worth doing, but otherwise I might just recycle it. I have, I just got this new power supply, so I might just build a whole PC around that. I mean, it's not an amazing power supply, but it's pretty good. It was like $50. Maybe I could, if I just get it running at all, maybe I could turn it into like a Bitcoin miner. I don't know. I mean, it was a gaming PC I got like 5 years ago. So it probably is not going to be that great. I don't remember what the GPU specs are. Anyway, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining if you did. And if not, if you're watching later, that's fine too. If you have not, I think all of you that I saw chatting here have responded to the Google form I sent out earlier. If not, please do, because I want to see kind of where you are. There are a couple of people I still haven't heard from, so I'm going to be reaching out to make sure that they're doing okay and they know how to connect with things. Um, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to upload this on YouTube later too, so keep an eye out for that, I guess. All right, everyone. Stay well, be safe. I will see you on Friday with another Twitch stream and maybe some other things too. So, all right, I'm going to sign off if I can figure out. Yeah, there it is. Okay, see you later.